Hello, my name is Tiffany Almeida. I'm with Pretty and Paper Crafts. Excuse my voice. I'm recovering from a cold. And this is May's Blends Club, May 2019 Blends Club. We are going to be making this beautiful sampler that fits in an 8x8 frame. So this is an example of a shadow box. This is an 8x8 shadow box. I got it at Craft Warehouse, and I just put this, it fits perfectly inside the frame. You could use a regular frame or you could use a shadow box, whichever you prefer. But this little project is super fun, and I'm going to show you how to create the sky, the grass, the shading on the horse, everything that you need to know. And I used our blends. So we have 4 blends colors that we're using this month. We have Soft Suede, light and dark, Mossy Meadow, light and dark, Basic Black, light and dark, and Pool Party, light and dark. So that's all we need. Make sure that you have those with you. The other thing that we're also going to need is Memento black ink. Make sure that you have Memento when you're using blends. This is the right kind of ink to use with alcohol markers. The alcohol markers will not run with the Memento black ink, that they will run with the StazOn. So make sure it's Memento. Okay, the stamp set that I'm going to be using today is called Let It Ride. It's an absolutely adorable set, and if you love horses, then you love this set. Super cute, and the sentiments are great. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how to make these projects. And please, again, just excuse my voice. I apologize. This is how your kit came to you, wrapped in a little bandana, because we are going Western for our little horse projects today. So inside you'll find all of the things you need to make your card and your sampler. Now, I would recommend before you glue anything, don't glue anything down until you've stamped and colored everything. That's kind of my rule in life. Don't glue anything down. And you'll be just fine. So let's go ahead and start with the card first. The card is basic black with the Wood Textures Designer Series paper already cut for you. You have that piece that goes in the center here, and this half flap that you're going to put this piece of Designer Series paper on. Now the measurements for this card, I'll give those to you just so you have them. This basic black base is 5.5 by 6 3/8, and it's scored at 4 1/4. Okay, and then this piece of Designer Series paper is 4 inches by 5 1/4, and this piece here is 1 7/8 by 5 1/4. Then you need another piece of basic black. This one measures 4.5 by 5.5. And it's scored on the long side at 2 3/4. And then you need 2 pieces of Whisper White, measuring 2.5 by 4 1/4. And then you have these 2 labels here that I've already punched for you. The inside label that's in white is the Darling Label Punch. That's part of the Darling Label Punch box. And then to create the frame around it, I actually used the Everyday Label Punch and just did a shorter version of the label. And then what you gotta do, excuse my voice, what you need to do is just cut off these little round sides here so that it's a straight edge. Oops. Just like so. And then you have a little background for your label, okay? So let's go ahead and do our stamping first, and then we can do our coloring. So the way that this card works is this little label's holding this flap down. So you'll just open it and open, and then you have this inside sentiment here, okay? So on one piece of this Whisper White, we need to stamp the horse. So you'll get the horse running, and we'll ink that up real good. And he's barely gonna fit, so just Heads up on that. He's gonna fit, but it's gonna be just barely. And then we need to do the inside, which is the tree. So we have the tree over here. Okay, and we're gonna stamp this tree off to the side, so it's not gonna be the full image of the tree. Like so. And then the sentiment inside says, go for it, so we'll stamp that. Like so. And then the sentiment for the label is take life by the rain, so we'll do that as well. And it fits perfectly in this little punch, just like so. Excuse me. Okay. For your first lesson in blends, the thing that I always recommend is start with the light blend. Start with the light color first. You can always go darker, but you can't always go lighter. So what I recommend is, and I'll bring this in here so you can see. Imagine, here's what I want you to picture when you're coloring. Imagine the sun is shining, whether it's shining from the left or shining from the right, or shining from the top. There's going to be a brighter side and a darker side. The darker side's gonna have the shadow. That's gonna be where the sun isn't showing, right? So for me, I pictured the sun kind of in the direction of where the label is. So the brightness is going to be on the left-hand side of him. The darkness is gonna be on his underbelly and his right side. And just like his shadow is kind of going off to the right. So, and the other thing is that you can do, you can leave white space, and that will be like really shiny, like reflective light, okay? So maybe the horse is a little bit sweaty, or he's got a really shiny coat. So if you leave a little bit of the horse white, it will look like a reflection. So I'm using the brush tip. Be really careful when you're using the brush tip. You might want to use the fine tip side. There's two sides to the pen. There's a brush tip, and as you can see from the picture, brush tip and fine tip. For fine detail, I recommend the fine tip, but you're going to want to give your horse a good light coat. And I'm just gonna color him in. And leave, again, a little bit of that white space. Just there on his shoulder and over here on his rear a little bit. And you just want to be careful with the brush tip. I'm just trying to be careful because I'm trying to stay in the lines. Okay? So just a quick base coat. Okay. Now, once you've done the base coat, I want you to go again and start thinking about those shadows. Start thinking about where the sun's not going to be shining, where there's going to be shadows naturally from his, his body naturally shading itself. So maybe on the right side of the ear and maybe on the right side of the head. Definitely on the chin, right? Because the sun's not going to hit there. And underneath his neck. Oh, I forgot to mention, I'm using the fine tip for this detail because I just want thin lines of shade. Okay, I'm just kind of tracing the right side of his body. Definitely want to get under his belly, right? And his leg, mostly on the right side. You can also follow the curvatures on the image itself. Maybe back here behind the mane. But these little marks that the stamps give you are also sometimes a clue of where that shading needs to be. Okay, so just kind of giving it that shadow effect. Now, once you've gone over with the dark soft suede, I want you to take your light again. You can take the brush tip, and I'm going to just kind of go over where I had colored in the dark. And this is going to be to blend those dark edges so they look like they kind of blend into the light a little bit better. The thing about blends is that you can do these in layers. Layer upon layer is going to add different levels of color and make it darker each time. Okay, so as you can see, as I'm adding the light color again, it blends those edges so that the dark and the light kind of blend a little bit better. So you can see that, okay? All right, the last thing I did for my horse is I took my light basic black and I added some detail in his hair. I took my fine tip and I just kind of colored it in a little bit, just kind of filled it in. I just kind of wanted his hair to be a little bit darker. This is totally optional. If you like his hair the way it is, his mane, I should say, then you don't have to do this. But definitely give his hooves that dark color by using that light basic black. Okay, and that's it. That is how you color that horse. See, look at how he looks like he's moving. He looks like he's got reflections. He looks like he's got some shadows. And you can keep going. You can keep adding more depth, more shadows. The more you do it, the darker it gets. So just know that. But always go back over with your light and blend those edges so that they're not so obvious. Okay? Now for the grass, kind of the same thing. We're going to start with the Mossy Meadow, the light. And we're going to just kind of scribble. You can just scribble the kind of a patch of green like so, okay? And then we're going to take our dark, and I like to just kind of scribble over the grass here, but then I'm also going to do a shadow under him. So I'm going to come from his back foot and I'm just going to kind of shade forward like so, okay? And then of course, we're gonna go back over with our light and kind of blend that all in. We don't want it to be too obvious. Okay, and that's it for the horse. Now let's go ahead and do our tree on the inside. Same kind of thing. We're gonna do that light blends in Mossy Meadow. And with the trees, I just kind of feathered out, just kind of started skinny at the top and kind of pushed out as I got to the bottom. You know, kind of like it's painted and not really specific. And then I'm going to take the dark and I'm actually going to do the fine tip. And I'm just going to kind of shade under those trees a little bit. And shade the trees a little bit. And really not a lot of fine detail there. And then go back over with your light. And blend those colors. And that is it. So now we get to just assemble our card. Now, you can see the more color you add to your paper, the more it will leak through the back. So make sure you have a protective piece of paper or something down in case any of that ink leaks through. You don't want to ruin any projects or anything nice by having that unprotected. Okay, so let's go ahead and glue down our piece of designer series paper. Like so. Okay, and then on this piece, we need to put our horse on the outside. So remember, it's going to open this way. So we want our horse to be here. Like so. And then when we open it, we want this to be on this side. So kind of the opposite of a normal card. Like so, and then we're going to put adhesive on the back. And this we're going to try and center the center of the card, like right about here should be good. Okay, and then we'll put this piece down here. Like so. And then our last piece is we'll glue our little label down. And then we need dimensionals. I have a new sheet of dimensionals. And we're going to put it just on one side of the label, on the left side, because we don't want it to interfere with the hinge. Let's see, I'm gonna put it right here. So we want it to hold down that fold, but we don't want it to be in the way. So we've got to put this down strategically here. So maybe I shouldn't put this one on here. Let's hold off on that. Okay, so we'll just put this down. And then it just opens like so. And you can just tuck it back under the little label. Cute, right? So there are your 2 cards. Very cute. Okay, now let's go ahead and work on the sampler. So again, we're gonna use that same kind of technique that I showed you to color our horse. Now, you don't have to do a brown horse. You could do a black horse. You could do all different kinds of colors of horse. It does not have to be the colors that I showed you, but it's kind of a brown horse. I mean, that's pretty basic, but it's pretty normal, right? Okay, so here is our sampler. So we have a lot of pieces for this sampler that we're gonna have to keep straight here. And each piece of Whisper White gets backed by a piece of gray granite and a piece of Night of Navy. So you can see they frame each other. So just like our picture here, this is gonna be our bottom piece. We have 2 long pieces here. So you'll have one for the horse up here, one for the label right here, and 2 for the top. And if you need the measurements for these, I will include them in this video so you'll know what size squares these are and what size rectangles these are. And then here's our label, okay? All right, so the first thing we're gonna need to do is stamp our horse on this piece. So let's go ahead and get Memento black ink out and our horse stamp. Now this one is going to cut off part of the horse's tail, but that's okay. So let's put him down here. And there we go. And then we need to do our scenic piece down here, which is going to be the trees and the little horses. So I did the trees on both sides, and then I did the horse in the center. So, tree here, tree here, and horse here. Okay? So there we go, we've got them. And then we need our horse, just his face in the corner. Like so. Perfect. And then the last one is the little sentiment here. Take life by the reins. And then our label has another sentiment. Love as if someone left the gate open. Oh, live as if someone left a gate open. Got to get that one out on a block. Okay, so that's gonna go right on this little crumb cake label here. This is the new label. This is the, I haven't even learned the name of it yet. It's a brand new label out of the new catalog. Okay, so now that we've got everything stamped, we can color, okay? So we need to color these 3 pieces. So we'll set these aside. Okay, so here we go. So again, with the horse, let's go ahead and start with our big horse here. You will want to color in with the light, give it that base coat. And I'm gonna try and leave a little bit of white space again to kind of give him that reflective. I kind of like that look. Like the light is reflecting off of his body. It's kind of a cool effect. Okay, and then just again, giving him that nice base coat. The really nice thing about blends is that it doesn't leave streaks or lines when you're coloring. It all blends into the background, and it leaves for a really nice, makes really nice skies, water, grass, things like that. So I'll show you that next when we color the sky. It just makes for a really cool sky. So I'll show you that. Right now I'm just shading around his leg and his back. Just kind of, again, imagining that sun and where those shadows would be under his belly, his leg, right? It's not going to have as much sun down there. Maybe a little bit on his back leg here. Okay, and then we'll take the light again and we'll just blend those edges that we just did so it doesn't look so hard. It makes it look more natural. Okay, let's give it a little bit back here. Okay, and then we'll do his hooves again with that basic black. I'm using the light, but it doesn't matter which shade. And then I definitely want to do his mane, like so. Coloring in his tail a little bit. Okay. Now for the grass again, this time we're going to do a straight line across. So I'm going to go just slightly above his bottom hoof, across on each side. Okay. And just fill that in. And this is where I'm talking about where it doesn't leave those lines. It just blends so pretty. Isn't that cool? And then let's do some shadows and some accents in the dark mossy meadow, okay? And then again, we'll go back over with the light just to blend things a little bit better. Okay, now let's do the sky. So we have light and dark pool party. I recommend starting with light, and then if you want it to be darker, go in with the dark. But again, always start with the light because you can always make it darker. And I would just go from side to side and color in that sky. And when you get to him, just kind of color around him as close as you can. Alcohol markers do blend and they run a little bit. So that's the thing I like, is it doesn't like look like there's this separation between the two. It just kind of blends right into the edge. Right into the grass, right into his legs. Okay. Just giving him a good coat. And that's the other thing too, you can experiment with different colors by blending different markers together. It makes new colors. And that's kind of fun. So if you wanted this to be darker, you could either keep doing light shades over and over and they'll get darker, or you can do the darker, see how the darker pool party creates a whole different color. So you can kind of play with the sky color and make it your own. I kind of feel like now that I've gone darker, I've got to do the whole thing darker, but that's okay. I like that darker pool party color. And then if you want, you can blend it even more with the light. Go back over with the light. Blend things together a little bit. Fill in the holes, I should say. Okay, so there's our horse's sky. Okay, so there's our one horse. Now for the second one, we're gonna do these smaller horses. Now they're not gonna have as much detail because they're far away, right? They're smaller. Use that light soft suede, but use the fine tip for these horses because they're so small and detailed. You'll have a really hard time getting the brush tip to color these legs, these little skinny legs. So again, we're just starting out with the light. Like so. Okay, and we can go back over in the dark, maybe under the belly, you know, again, where those natural shadows would be. And again, we're gonna blend it all. And I'm using the fine tip. Okay, and then we're gonna take that light again and just kind of blend those colors. Okay, so just like so. And then let's take our Mossy Meadow. Let's do our light Mossy Meadow. Let's take the brush tip and we'll go across the whole bottom section here real quick and just give it that light base. Okay, and then we'll take the dark. Now we're going to do shadows for our horses here. So we're going to kind of come out from the leg, imagine the body, maybe like this, you know, kind of like the shadow, but you know, there's like light coming through the legs. So we're just gonna like something like that. Okay, same thing with the trees. The light's going to be shining from this direction, so we're going to do thicker at the beginning and lighter at the end. Thicker and lighter, thicker, lighter. And maybe we want some darkness in the trees. Okay, same thing here. Dark to light, dark to light, dark to light. Now we can take our light Mossy Meadow again and we can fill in those trees. And we can blend those shadows so they're not so obvious. Just like that. And now we can take our pool party and do our sky. This is a light pool party. And again, we're just gonna color the sky here. Just get it in between the trees. And between our horses. Between their legs. You can see I'm just using the fine tip, the brush tip, and just coloring it in. The colors can blend a little bit. Like so. Okay? And you can make it as light, again, as light or as dark as you want. Okay, so I think that's good. So we have our horses. And now we have our kind of main horse face here. Again, like always, we're going to coat in light soft suede. That's what we always start with. Because you can always go darker, but you can't go lighter. Not always. Okay. And we're going to kind of leave his mane alone because we're going to fill that in with some black. Okay, so let's get our dark soft suede. Let's use the fine tip and let's trace along some of these lines of the horse. Definitely shade underneath his mouth and near his ear, maybe underneath his hair here, and definitely in the chin area because the sun's not shining there, right? And maybe over here in the corner and under his hair. Okay, so then we'll take our light soft suede again and we will just blend those. And I just like to soften that darkness so that he doesn't look so dark. And then we'll take our basic black again and let's go ahead and kind of color in the hair a little bit. Fill in that white space. I'm using the brush tip for this, but you could use the fine tip. And I'm just kind of blending the black into the brown a little bit. So there, we have our horse. We have all of our pieces done. So now we get to just assemble. The coloring is, oh no, I lied. We gotta color his background. We need our horse's background. He looks too white. So we're gonna take our light pool party and just fill that in. Color his background. And you can even shadow the background if you wanted to. You could do darker around him. So you could take the dark pool party and shade around him so that he kind of has a darker shadow around him. Of course, what do we always do after we go with the dark? We blend with the light. We don't want it to be super obvious, right? Just subtle. Okay. There we go. Now we can assemble. So let's go ahead and bring this back. And we'll kind of do this in layers. So first thing we want to do, I would recommend using liquid glue because you can manipulate it a little bit before it dries and it's permanent. So I would just put a layer of liquid glue around it. And let's glue the white pieces down to the gray granite. So we'll get those centered. So you can see, even though I've laid it down, I can still move it around if I need to. And we'll glue that down. And then we can glue that gray granite piece, once we have it all centered, to the Night of Navy. Like so, okay? And then we'll do that to all the pieces before we start gluing things down because we want to space everything out evenly and make sure that we have it done right. So you can see my mat is pretty covered in in Blends marker. So that's why it's good to have a protective cover. And you can get these grid mats in the catalog. They're in the catalog at the back in the paper tools section. And yeah, you can buy a big old pack of this grid paper, which is fabulous. I go through a lot of it. I'm messy though. So, okay, and then we got our horse here. he's on his back. And then we'll do this one on this back. Like so. Okay, and then we have this sentiment here that we need to glue down. And then this goes right here. Okay, and then the last one is this piece here, which nothing goes in this white section. We'll just glue the white piece down to the gray. And then the gray down to the blue. Okay. All right. Now for the label. So these punch, this is the same punch for the blue and the crumb cake. And so to create that border, you actually are going to cut this piece in half longwise, just like so. And then, whoops, we can put adhesive on the back of your label, and we're going to glue the label down just like this so that a little section is showing at the bottom and a little section is showing at the top. And that's how you can create a label that's big enough for your sentiment, to border your sentiment. Okay, so the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna tie our ribbon around this piece. You have a piece of this ribbon. This is the Night of Navy. Ooh, what is this called? Can't remember what it's called. Sorry. I will look it up and it will be in the description. And we're just going to wrap it around the piece and tie a knot like so. Then take your scissors and just cut at an angle here like that. And then you can slide it over to the side. And now we're going to put dimensionals on the back of our label. I have many dimensionals, so you need a lot more of those. And then we can glue that right onto, slide that over a little bit, glue this right onto our ribbon. So right over the top of it, like so, okay? Oh, it's a little crooked, I feel. Maybe not. Okay. All right, so now we have all of our pieces kind of assembled, so now we can space everything out. I just eyeballed it, so it's not exact, but just trying to keep the same amount of space between everything. You know, once you kind of have it positioned where you think it's good, for me, the sides and the top are the most important, and then I'll worry about kind of what's centered in the middle. So I'm going to start with the bottom piece, and I'm going to glue the bottom piece down. So I'm going to put adhesive on the back of it. Again, I'm going to use liquid glue because it allows me a little bit of wiggle room before it dries. Right about there should be good. And then we'll do our little horse on the side. just like so. And let's do this piece. Just push that down for a minute, make sure it glues down pretty good. We'll do this middle section. Like so. Trying to make sure everything's kind of centered. And then our last piece here. Like so. And there you go. You've got this beautiful sampler now that will fit inside one of your 8x8 frames. And it's adorable. What do you guys think? I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something new. And that you'll give blends a good try and see how fun they are to color with. We just created a beautiful masterpiece and a beautiful card to go along with it. And made our kind of our horse pop. It was such a flat image before, and the blends just created so much dimension and shadowing, and it just brought the colors to life. So I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you'll join me again for next month's Blends Club. Remember that if you do all 6 months of Blends Club, you will get, as I throw it, you will get 2 sets of the trays. It comes with 5 trays. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you'll get 10 trays total. And you'll get 2 sets of these if you do all 6 months. And it holds all of the blends that you'll be getting for joining Blends Club. Okay, you guys, thank you so much for watching. We'll see you again next month. Bye-bye.